Thank you for calling the XFL. To continue in English, press 1. Oprima dos para español.
Hello, this is XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck. Thanks for calling XFL Los Angeles. We're excited to call the StubHub Center home when the league launches in 2020, and we appreciate your support. We are busy reimagining football, so please leave a message at the tone and share your thoughts because we're listening. Visit XFL.com for more information and to reserve your season tickets today. Thank you. Hello, this is XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck. Thanks for calling XFL Dallas. We're excited to call Globe Life Park in Arlington home when the league launches in 2020, and we appreciate your support. Thanks for calling XFL New York. This is Commissioner Oliver Luck. We're excited to call MetLife Stadium home when the league launches in early 2020, and we appreciate your support. Hello, this is XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck. Thanks for calling XFL St. Louis. We're excited to call the Dome at America Center home when the league launches in 2020, and we appreciate your support. Hello, this is XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck. Thanks for calling XFL Seattle. We're excited to call CenturyLink Field home when the league launches in 2020, and we appreciate your support. Hello, this is XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck. Thanks for calling XFL Tampa Bay. We're excited to call Raymond James Stadium home when the league launches in 2020, and we appreciate your support. Hello, this is XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck. Thanks for calling XFL Washington, D.C. We're excited to call Audi Field home when the league launches in 2020, and we appreciate your support.
This is the future. This is not the past.
The new XFL will kick off in 2020.
If you smell what the XFL is cooking.
It's still football, but it's professional football reimagined.
This is our moment, our story to tell. This is history begun.
This is the XFL!
Welcome, football fans. This is the week of December 2nd, 2018. This is the road to 2020, and this is the XFL show. I'm Alan.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Bryant.
This week features a discussion about the first reported XFL city, as well as everything you need to know regarding the big week ahead, which will be highlighted by the official announcement of all 8 XFL cities. It's episode 44, Big City Football, and here we are on the precipice of the biggest news to date, even though kind of it's already out there. Welcome to the show, everybody. Here we go. The XFL about to officially announce their 8 teams, but this week we learned one of the cities, and we had an interview, which you may have already caught. We released it on our website. This is the XFLshow.com, and of course social media, at XFL Show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. But after that, a couple days later, all hell breaks loose, Jake. And here we are. We basically unofficially know the 8 cities the XFL will play football in 2020.
Yeah, I just want to issue a warning to all the listeners. If you're not sitting down, please take the time to sit down. If you're driving on the highway, pull over, find a rest stop, because there is a lot of stuff to discuss here. I guess we got to say it's groundbreaking. Like we said, we kind of have seen behind the curtain, it would appear, Brian. But again, a lot of this is still, until you hear it from Mr. McMahon's mouth or Mr. Luck's mouth, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, keep it in mind. It's all officially unofficial so far, Bryant, but we know the cities, man. We know them.
Yeah, Alan, it's been a crazy week since St. Louis broke. We have a great interview, like you said, but since that day, the XFL came out the next day saying that everything was going to be announced December 5th at MetLife Stadium, and now everything seems to be coming out, and you're right, nothing's officially official, but man, it seems like we're getting close to knowing everything before Wednesday.
So here we go. This is what we got lined up on today's show. We will have the full interview from our conversation with Frank Cusimano, who's the sports director at KSDK in St. Louis. He broke the news earlier in the week on Tuesday that St. Louis would be the first XFL city. And soon after that, more information about other cities started leaking out, and on, I guess it was Friday night. Of course, this show drops every football Sunday morning. Friday night, it basically leaked out all 8 XFL cities through a couple of different ways, which we'll go over. But yes, we're going to play that full interview for you today. We're also going to discuss what's coming next Wednesday. But let's get everything out in front of us. I know Jake loves it when we keep things in order, so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to kick things off the way we always do with our cover 2.
Going for 2. Go for 2 and the lead.
All right, first piece of business in the cover 2. Let's first things first here. So St. Louis announced, right? And like you said, Bryant, day after that, XFL officially announced on social media, sent out an email actually before that to the media, which we were glad to get. So we knew it was coming. December 5th, Wednesday, noon Eastern, inside the Toyota Club, inside MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. This big press event will be held, and Vince McMahon, Oliver Luck will be there to unveil the 8 cities and venues for the 2020 season of the XFL. They also will give, quote, a detailed update on the state of the league. So after St. Louis kind of leaked, reported by Frank Cusimano, our guest later on in the show, this news comes out that the announcement is coming on December 5th, and we're going to be there covering it all for everyone. So remember, go to thisisthexflshow.com, follow us on social media. We'll give you all inside accounts while we're there next Wednesday. But this is the biggest day since the announcement of the league, December 5th. All sorts of great video and podcast content coming at you from us. But, of course, XFL themselves will be live streaming the event at xfl.com. So watch that if you can't make it to East Rutherford, and follow us on social media. We'll try to get you also, inside stuff maybe they're not showing on the live stream. But with that big announcement, guys, like that, obviously reporters are going to start digging and working harder and getting, start paying attention to the XFL more, and they did. And it took about 2 days after the announcement that the announcement was coming for basically all of the cities leaking. And you heard that at the beginning of the show. That was not doctored. Those were actual voicemail messages, if you called these phone numbers, that were mysteriously and inexplicably posted on XFL.com Friday night. And the cities you heard Oliver Luck have voicemails for were Washington, D.C., St. Louis, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles, New York, Houston, Dallas, and Seattle. Tons to unpack here. First off,
well, Alan, if I'm sorry, if I can correct you real quick. Houston, there was no voicemail for.
There was no voicemail for Houston. You're right. That Houston, I believe you said when you called the Houston number, it reverted you to the Dallas voicemail.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
and I think we need Brian to give an abbreviated story of what he was telling us, before we started recording, about how you stumbled across this, because it's just
you want the personal details of how he came about, because I was at a basketball game.
No, some of the personal details I don't need to hear for a second time. And quite frankly, I don't think the listeners need to hear. But Brian, just quickly tell us about this, because it is a hell of a story. Like, you're doing some real sleuthing. Were you wearing a red trench coat and a red hat during
I'm sure he was just looking at Twitter, but yeah, good job, Brian. Brian's the one that discovered it and recorded the audio. He called all the numbers. Good job. But yeah, tell the story. Sorry.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're on the internet, you see this type of information available to you, and so you start making some phone calls. And when you realize that these phone calls can lead to potentially huge audio bites for your show, you drop everything and you run, and you literally and you get down and you start you start doing what you got to do. So it was great night for me last night. The missus wasn't too pleased, but it was okay.
Okay, so there they are, though. So Bryant stumbles upon it, calls the voicemails. I mean, Oliver Luck saying the city names. That's not official yet, I guess, but it sounds unofficially official. Here we are, St. Louis, D.C., Tampa Bay, Los Angeles, New York, Houston, Dallas, Seattle, our first 8 XFL cities. And if you go back in the archive when we had our XFL City Madness and we came down to our picks for the first 8, how many did we get right, Bryant?
We did 3 right. I believe we did discuss every single one of these cities for sure.
Yes.
But we only selected 3 in our finals. I think Houston was the one that we had a toss up between Houston and Oklahoma City, I believe. But yes,
So
I mean, the one thing that The one thing we didn't account for is the fact that all these are major metropolitan areas.
That's true, major. But also back when we were doing this was pre-AAF. So before the Alliance of American Football, do you think that influenced the XFL's decision in any of these cities?
I find it hard to believe that the XFL is being influenced by the AAF in any way. It just seems like the XFL is setting themselves up to be the big brother to the AAF's little brother. I just don't.
The AAF they're in significantly smaller markets. I think you also put a post out. How many top 10 media markets are the XFL in versus the AAF?
Yeah, the AAF, unfortunately, is only in one top 10 market, and that is Atlanta at number 10. The XFL hit 5 markets, 3 of the top 5, and all 5 in the top 10. New York, LA, Dallas, DC, Houston. I believe the lowest ranked city on XFL's list is number 20, somewhere in that range. And the AAF goes all the way down to, I believe, 50-something, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, so the XFL's going for the gusto. Big city football, Jake. What do you think of the cities chosen at first glance?
I mean, you always want to live, on the big side of town, in a big house, on a big hill. Like we said, 3 out of 8, 37.5%. I wouldn't want to see that, that grade on a test that I got back. But for what we were doing, I think it worked out pretty good. Brian, I think another big deal was hearing where these teams are going to be playing, what venue on the voicemail. Yeah. That's something that I think that's a big get as well, almost as important as where, what towns they're going to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have a separate podcast to kind of compare these 8 cities compared to the AAF cities. But you're right, Jake, the 8 cities, and we're suspecting Houston. I mean, really, to be honest, we're suspecting all of these because nothing's officially official. But the oldest stadium they're playing in...
There's no drum rolls today because nothing's official, nothing's officially unveiled. So it is all unofficially official.
So the oldest stadium they're playing in is going to be a baseball park in Arlington for the Dallas franchise, Globe Life Park, that holds about 48,000 fans. It is soon to be vacated by the Texas Rangers as the Texas Rangers are getting a brand new stadium next to Jerry's World. So Globe Life Park might actually be a great fit for both parties involved.
Is it still going to be there in 2020?
It is. There's no plans to demolish that park from what I was reading when I was looking at. So it's going to exist, and it looks like it's going to be home to the Dallas franchise for the XFL. But, I mean, you look at this, and right now you have 4 stadiums hosting NFL teams today. The Dome has hosted an NFL team, so that's 5 out of the 8.
StubHub Center doesn't really count, though.
Well, I'm saying right now, come on, it has. If you let me finish my sentence, the 5 of the cities have stadiums that have hosted an NFL game.
Yeah, this is super interesting to me looking at it. And caller Leo to the XFL fan line pointed this out as well, and I was thinking the same thing. 2 Texas teams. That really jumps off the page to me and just creates a great natural rivalry. Houston and Dallas, their teams always go at it. More so, I guess, in baseball, the Astros and Rangers is pretty vicious. But this creates a nice natural rivalry within the league, I think. In the big state, the big football-loving state of Texas, I love that Texas got 2 teams, Jake. What do you think about that?
I was a little surprised, just like you, that they only got 2 teams. I thought it would have been at least 3.
So the conferences would have been Texas.
I think we talked about a Texas conference, Texas versus the world.
That'd be awesome.
Like if they ever did an all-star game, it would have to be that.
Yeah, maybe somewhere down the road. That jumped off the page to me of the amount of NFL stadiums. And as Oliver Luck kind of alluded to when he talked to us and other members of the media, is basically saying Vince McMahon likes to go big. So these cities really, when you think about the top 10 media markets, Bryant, no surprise at all. The AAF went small potatoes in terms of the cities. The XFL meticulously chose the best possible big cities that they could get into and hopefully garner the attention and the dollars, obviously. So football-loving cities, maybe not all of them. I'm skeptical about the LA team playing in the StubHub Center and NFL teams not even getting attendance there. We'll see about them. But I love the decision to go into the soccer stadium in D.C. I love this decision to give St. Louis pro football. I love that there's a team in Tampa Bay, that city that supported the Tampa Bay Bandits back in the USFL, and two Texas teams. I think you're going to do well with Texas. And Seattle, very interesting because that is the Seahawks building. Going to be very interesting to see what an XFL team in Seattle does.
Well, I mean, Seattle, if you're talking about a sports town, I mean, not only do the Seahawks get a fan base, but the Sounders are completely sold out every time. That's one of the loudest stadiums in MLS. So I can imagine that's going to be a great city to host an XFL team. But Alan, I'm going to call you on the StubHub Center because LA is filled with 5 million football fans. The problem is they're dispersed over 32 teams. If you get them to cheer for one team, you might get them actually to come out and support one team altogether.
That's the argument I guess you can make for an XFL team versus an NFL team in LA, is that everyone in LA already has their NFL team, and most of them aren't even the LA teams, one of the two. And the XFL, now you're going to have a team born there, so we'll see how the LA XFL team does playing in the soccer stadium out there in Carson. Houston and Dallas, the one's in a baseball stadium. The other one is Houston, I guess, going to be where the Dynamo play, Brian. We didn't even get that voicemail, right? So not official. It's not even unofficially official. Is it total speculation where the Houston team is going to play?
I mean, the Houston team is probably the most speculation, right? Because all we got was a phone number on the actual website. But other than that, some people have been chiming in. I think the most logical spot is going to be the BBVA Compass Stadium where the Houston Dynamo play, holds about 20,000. The only other place I can think of that they'd play in Houston is Reliance Stadium, which I believe is just too massive. I mean, you never know at this point, though, because they are in bigger stadiums as well. And the Houston Astrodome is a parking lot at this point, so I don't know where else they could play.
Yeah, that's not even a flea market, and they're going to demolish it eventually. So we have, once again, these 8 cities. The reason we're talking about them, we know about them, is because the XFL inexplicably posted 8 cities and phone numbers with those voicemails you heard at the beginning of the show, and now they are conspicuously been taken down from XFL.com. So that's what we're going by. Everybody's assuming these are the cities. It's all unofficially official, I guess, according to that, Jake. Who knows? Maybe we could be in for a big swerve at Wednesday's press conference. What do you think? What do you make of that? The city numbers being posted with voicemails attached and then taken down. Why did that happen? Was this done on purpose? An accident? Someone mess up in the digital department? What went on here? And if there was done on purpose, what's the thinking behind it?
I mean, some people, they may be shouting black helicopters and CO-conspiracy, but I don't think that's true. I think it is odd because this is coming out of the XFL camp. It's not like somebody was data mining and, that they found an extra line of code or something. I believe that, the XFL, they would have had to put this out. So as good as Brian is with a computer, he's not a hacker. He's not that good.
He just went to the website and found the numbers.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jake. Was it an accident? Was it accidentally on purpose? Did someone just get too? I mean, Oliver Luck had to have recorded these at some point. They have to be getting ready for Wednesday.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure these things were going to come. These were probably going to go live. Wednesday the 5th after the after the press conference. I would have. So
you think someone said, "Hey, we got Oliver's voicemails. Post the number on the website when they're done," and they figured when they're done, when the voicemails are done, not done with the press conference. Maybe someone misheard instructions or something.
I don't know. I don't know how you can mishear that. I really don't know.
Here's my thinking. I think it was done intentionally. I think they were taken down intentionally. And I think this is because the XFL is now letting these cities know, a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, your city's getting an XFL team. Wednesday is a big press conference. Those are taken off. Now, people like Pro Football Talk even reporting on it. It's all probable. I mean, I would say 99% these are going to be the cities, but there's that level of doubt, mystery going into the press conference, but also people in those cities and media in those cities are now interested because, we're getting a football team. Maybe we have to go cover it or at least pay attention to the press conference and cover it for the nightly news here in Tampa Bay or wherever, Dallas, Houston. So I think this was done with some kind of intent to pique people's interest in those cities.
So you think that they wanted to generate more buzz and perhaps put more butts in that Toyota club? Exactly.
And you know what? If they didn't do it on purpose, that's what it did anyway. So it's not that big of a screw up, even if it was an accident. That's what I'm kind of thinking here. So we got the 8 unofficial cities. Super excited. The press conference will officially unveil those cities next week with the venues. We'll be there. Credit to Frank Cusimano, our guest coming up here shortly from KSDK. First one to break any news. That was in St. Louis. They confirmed it, and XFL St. Louis. That news came out on Tuesday. And then friend of the show, Brad Shepard, he broke news on Seattle getting a team on his account on Twitter. So that was the second one to come out. And then you also had the Washington Post leak out that DC was getting a team. I believe it was a soccer insider, also with The Athletic, who broke the news that Audi Stadium would be getting an XFL team. So those were the 3 that broke via good old-fashioned reporting and people doing their due diligence. The other 5 cities we basically found out because of that website leak of the phone numbers, and everybody called those voicemails right away. But that is the first part of our cover 2 here. And it's the biggest thing we've talked about yet since the league was announced, guys. The 8 cities are
cover 3.
Yeah, we're
cover 8, maybe.
We got to play at least 3 deep here. We don't want anything getting up over the top of us, and we won't. We got everything XFL covered for you. Everybody, thank you so much for riding down this road to 2020 with us, because now for 44 weeks since the announcement of the league returning, we've been doing this show, and a lot of you have realized, wow, we got 44 weeks with hardly any news breaking, and now big news is breaking. Jake's got a hard out for us today. He doesn't want us to go too long. This could be easily the longest podcast we've done, but it is that time of the road. We're down that part of the road right now where big news is going to start coming out, interesting stuff to talk about, and it's all going to be right here on This Is the XFL Show. With that said, the next thing I want to get into, part 2 of our cover 2, guys, is that at this press conference next week, we will get the cities unveiled, venues unveiled, but also state of the league. Now, what could that mean? That could be a bunch of different things. TV deal, maybe? That's what I'm hoping for. And I did see something very interesting. NBC executive Mark Lazarus, who is the broadcasting and sports chairman for the Peacock Network, he had an interesting quote I read online. It said, "I expect we will be in business with one of them," talking about the XFL and the AAF. And he said, "We have windows on both cable and broadcast, and we have interesting ties to both leagues." So this was at the Fairfield County Sports Commission event in Stamford, Connecticut, just, not too far from XFL headquarters. NBC, if you're a betting man, Jake, are you betting on NBC being the XFL's partner for broadcast? Oliver Luck said we'd all be pleasantly surprised with their TV deal. I think that would kind of fulfill that. That would be a very pleasant surprise. Broadcast TV with a cable outlet, NBC Sports Network, sounds pretty good to me.
I'm not sure if I would put any of my own money on. Maybe if I was playing with house money, I would put it down. Well, I mean, he said we expect, either the XFL or the AAF to be with NBC. I believe the AAF, they have a deal with CBS. Is that correct?
They do, but, the NFL's on multiple networks, so that's possible.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's between, I don't know. I think the XFL just screams Fox, in my mind. But, it's going to be one of the big 4s.
Yep, and my money would be on NBC, the original partner with the XFL. How about you, Bryant?
Does Dick Ebersol still work for NBC, or is he retired? No longer with.
Not
NBC?
Officially. Yeah, I don't know if he does any consulting or anything with NBC anymore.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to expect a TV deal announcement this Wednesday, but I do think we're going to get a very detailed information as far as where they're actually going to be broadcasting. I hope it is one of the big 4. I think we could take CBS off that list just because I don't think whatever network hosts any one of these leagues is not going to host the other league, just because of the similarities in scheduling and process and weeks and playoffs. All that stuff's all going to be kind of running at the same time. So I think it leaves 3 networks. You're right. Fox does sound a little more enticing. But Fox has a big baseball deal during the spring, so I don't know if they're really going to have the room. NBC has a lot more room during the spring than Fox does.
It's going to be the next very interesting announcement to find out after we find out the cities and the venues, I think, where these games will be played on television and streaming as well. Because if you ask, if it's up to me, if I have a choice, stream or television, I'm a modern man, Jake. I'm a digital man. I know you're an analog man, but I'm going straight for the streaming. So I'm also interested to see where this will be over the top online.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of streaming, and like yourself, Alan. To me, streaming and over the air cable is it's kind of one and the same right now. I can watch whatever I want. Even though I get my quote unquote cable through an internet provider, it's all going to be there for me. But I still think, like I said, you need people watching the XFL on a television in their garage to really get this league over, and that's why it's going to be one of the big networks. Yeah,
exactly. You want to be able to have your games playing on TVs displayed on glass windows outside of appliance stores. That's what you want.
Yeah, there's not many clubs, at least from my parts, that have a Roku or a Fire Stick plugged in their televisions at the bars. Yeah. So you're going to want this on CBS, ABC, Fox, NBC, one of them.
All right, so we're going to be there, so hopefully that's part of the announcement, state of the league. This is going to be a monumental event, this big press event going on Wednesday, December 5th. The XFL's Vince McMahon and Oliver Luck will be there, and they will be giving us all the details that they want to give us, at least for now. And when we're there, the number one thing I want to accomplish, hopefully we'll get some a word from Vince McMahon or Oliver Luck to our listeners here, Bryant, but I'm going to be boots on the ground there. Do you need anything from me while I'm at the event? What do you need? Give me my itinerary.
Well, you know what? I don't get there. Dress nice, please. Because if you've seen Alan outside of the show, you know what I'm talking about. No, but all honestly, Alan, they're serving lunch there, and I really want to know what's on the menu, because that seems that to me will, if it's sandwiches, then maybe we're in trouble. But if they got like plated lunches,
that'll tell us a lot about the league.
The people walking around,
a lot about the league. What they actually serve the media at lunch when we're there. We'll give you a full report on that.
Brian, if all the media walk in and they all get handed a paper bag, you're not seeing good things for the league.
Yes, that's yeah. Alan, you're gonna be there. I'm partly jealous, but it's gonna be great for the show. And let's see what kind of information we can get. Hopefully, some interviews, some sound bites, make some contacts, and we'll be good to go.
Exactly, and we're going to have a bunch of content from inside and outside of MetLife Stadium for you next week's big press event. And tell your friends. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Leave a review there. That helps spread the word of the XFL and this show. You could subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is now blowing up with more content. We've also cut up some of our big interviews we've had. You could go listen to them right there on YouTube. This is the XFL Show on YouTube, at XFL Show on all the social media, including Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We're everywhere, and it's all at one stop as well. This is the XFLshow.com. All right, guys. That's our cover two. Now we get to talk to the man who broke the first big news of the week, St. Louis getting pro football back. In case you missed our interview, which we posted on the website earlier this week, we have included it on this podcast this week as well. Frank Cusimano, the sports director from KSDK, joins us now on This is the XFL Show to talk about St. Louis getting an XFL team. It is a part of our hot read.
Blue 58! Blue 58! Go! Hey, Ric Flair! Ric Flair! Pepper, Clip, Caliber. O-Town, Happy, Jolly, Drop, Buster, Bird, Tiger! I think he's got a hound too, Rodney, I think. B-19! B-19 is fuck! Hey, Seattle! Ryan! Orange 83! Omaha!
I'm not going to say it's like the biggest thing in the world for our town, but I think we're excited about it. I think it's another sport, and I think it's another chance to prove Stan Kroenke wrong, that, he tried to paint us as a terrible football city. And I don't think there's a thing called a bad NFL city. I think there's bad NFL owners. And, we won the lottery in hell when we went Bidwell and Kroenke back to back, but we're a good football city, and I think we'll support this team.
Frank, do you think that's why the XFL chose St. Louis? I mean, you're mentioning how great of a football town it is. I've been to St. Louis. There's a lot of sports fans there. Why did the XFL choose St. Louis?
I think there's a variety of reasons. First of all, it would be, it has to be one of the biggest cities in the country without an NFL team. We have a pretty good facility in the Dome. And, it is a good sports town. I mean, our hockey team right now is struggling, but they still draw extremely well. There's no better baseball team, better baseball town in the country than St. Louis. Our college basketball team will have a sellout on Saturday against Butler. It's a passionate sports town. I do a sports talk radio, and, we're rocking every day. And then I go down to television, and, we fill Sportscast with local. So it's a terrific sports town.
Oh, absolutely. St. Louis, it's huge. And you guys also are clamoring for an MLS team. We know there's a big movement and voting actually today, I believe, on an MLS stadium even being built. Soccer could be huge in that town as well. And when you think about that, Frank, the XFL was easily approved by the city, I guess because the Dome was already readily available.
Yeah, in fact, as we speak, there's a hearing going on with the St. Louis Board of Aldermen where they will approve this stadium being built, and it's being done with $400 million of private funding. So the aldermen aren't going to say no. And in fact, I just mentioned this on my radio show that, if the soccer will probably come in 2021, the XFL will come in 2020. But so you're thinking in the spring of 2021 in St. Louis, at the same time, you will have the XFL, the MLS, the NHL, and Major League Baseball all in that same springtime period. That's pretty amazing.
Frank, some of the things that Stan Kroenke said was that the Dome was out of date. Now I'm looking back, and it's only like 20 years old. Is it out of date at all?
Well, it's fine. I don't think it's considered state of the art, and that's the reason that Stan Kroenke was allowed to leave, because when they initially came here, there was this terrible clause in the contract that the Dome had to be in the upper 25% of facilities in the NFL. And after 20 years with so many new buildings being built, it simply wasn't. And that's what allowed Stan to leave. Now, there's litigation going on that he violated some of the relocation rules. He lost a lawsuit yesterday in St. Louis with the PSL holders, and he'll lose a lawsuit with, violating the relocation law. So he's going to lose a couple $100 million, I think. But in terms of the actual facility, it's fine. It's not outstanding, but it's better than many, and just not as good as all of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of when the Rams were leaving town, I think a lot of the narrative about that building was kind of blown out of proportion just so they could leave, and I think a lot of people think that as well, Frank. So we'll see how the XFL does in that Dome, and who knows, maybe, with the MLS stadium being built, do you think there could be somewhere down the road, if the XFL catches on, they would play in that facility? Is that a possibility?
That's interesting, because the soccer stadium is going to seat in that 20 to 25 range, and I think that's would be kind of a target attendance for the XFL. I don't want to, say that they're going to draw 40,000, so maybe that'd be an interesting setup. Of course, game-wise, you'd be playing during the same season, so it may be difficult to schedule. I think, look, I talk with the people that run the Dome, and I think they're prepared to handle this and do it in a real professional way like they always have.
Any word on a team name when the news broke to you, Frank, or do you know how those will be determined, the St. Louis football team name in the XFL?
I don't. One suggestion was Stallions. That was going to be the expansion team that St. Louis was originally going to get before they lost out, to Jacksonville. and then they had to, go get the Rams. There's really no movement on that front. We just know this, that Vince McMahon is going to own the team. He's going to own all 8 teams, and then it'll be local local management. They'll hire a president from St. Louis, GM and coaches, and it'll be a St. Louis operation, but it'll all be owned by Vince McMahon.
Yeah, Frank, you mentioned that yesterday. I saw on the broadcast on your local affiliate there. Is there any word on has anyone agreed to actually manage a team, or who they're looking at? Any specific names or anything like that?
No, I just know. In fact, I know one of the people being interviewed for the job, but I don't think they're far enough along to name finalists or even close to like a team president and GM. I do hope, because St. Louis is a very, a local city in terms of we want our own. I do hope they try to go local with a coach or some connection to St. Louis. Like in that other league, the American Alliance of Football, they hired Mike Martz, and I thought he would have been absolutely perfect for St. Louis, but he's in the other league. But maybe there's a Gary Pinkel from the University of Missouri, or maybe there's some coach with some type of a St. Louis hook.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the AAF kind of went in that direction, at least with their players. They're trying to get them regionalized on each team. The coaches maybe not so much. We did hear that St. Louis missed out on an AAF team to San Antonio. Was there any kind of disappointment among fans in the city whenever you learned that you wouldn't be getting an AAF team due to conflicts of schedules at the Dome?
Well, there really wasn't, because we really didn't know that, like, we were a finalist and could have had that. And I do think, look, I'm excited about the XFL coming to St. Louis, but the possibility of getting Mike Martz here would have been really special. And he would have loved to have come back here because he loved the city, and for the most part, he had a great experience. He's like one of the more underappreciated NFL coaches of all time. The man's 20 games over 500. He created the greatest offense in the history of football, and yet he didn't get a second chance where you have all these mediocre hacks get second and third chances. It's the eighth wonder of the world to me.
Oh, absolutely. I think that was a real coup for the AAF getting Mike Martz. I think he has plenty left in the tank, and who knows, the AAF is starting up in 2019. We could see him in the XFL somewhere down the road. Frank, Stan Kroenke painted St. Louis as a bad football town. I'm not from there, but looking from as an outsider, never thought St. Louis was a bad football town. They supported the Rams through some tough years and also through the greatest years. Lack of support, was it poor play, the allure of Los Angeles? What really went into the team leaving St. Louis for Los Angeles exactly?
Well, it was a perfect storm of everything you could possibly do to alienate a city. That's what they did. They had 9 straight non-winning seasons. They had a 5-year stretch, which was the worst in NFL history. They had an owner who didn't talk to the city for 4 years. And, you factor in a product with a terrible owner and the owner flirting with Los Angeles. It's amazing that anybody went to those games at the end. All I know is that, I was a sideline reporter for the Rams radio network. I was on the sidelines for all those games, and there was no louder or more electric building in America when the Rams had it going. But then, you had this terrible product where you hire Steve Spagnuolo and Scott Linehan and Jeff Fisher. You had this terrible owner. You had this horrible president, Kevin Demoff. How could anybody withstand that? I mean, do you think like Indianapolis? You think if they would have had that kind of run, they would have supported the football team? No. As I said before, there's no such thing as a bad NFL city. There's only bad NFL owners.
Frank, I almost feel bad telling you that I'm from Los Angeles, but do you know of any other cities that the XFL is looking at or talking to, or maybe even a TV deal that's coming up anytime soon?
I do not know the other cities. And there's going to be 8 of them, and it's going to 10-game season and 5 at home. That's about all I know from that end. So I'm not certain about the others.
And Frank, before we let you go, man, top of your head, you get to pick first player and/or coach you think would be a perfect fit for the St. Louis XFL team.
Okay. first coach, I would go ask Dick Vermeil. I would make Dick Vermeil say no. He is one of the most beloved football figures of all time. Every old coach thinks they have one last miracle in them. I think he'd be look, he's the guy. If you wanted like the media to cover this team on a regular basis, oh my goodness. I mean, I'd go to there before I'd cover the Cardinals at times. In terms of a player, you know, it would be interesting. It's somebody like a Chase Daniel,
yes,
who may be at the end of his NFL career, who had this sensational career at the University of Missouri and is, you know, like God with a small G in our state. So I think he'd be an interesting, you know, the quarterback, who knows, even a guy like Tim Tebow, some just marquee name that housewives will recommend or would remember and would actually go out and watch.
I'm with you on Chase Daniel. I know he's with the Bears now, but it's hard to think. He just recently, he's been in the league forever, and I think he just finally threw his first touchdown pass. Maybe he's been making all kinds of money as a big backup, but I think that'd be a perfect fit. But there's definitely some local guys, a bunch of local talent that's probably on the cusp of making the NFL or leaving the NFL, I think, that could make an XFL St. Louis team pretty good, man. Well, Frank, we really appreciate it. We're excited for the city and happy you broke the news and happy that you joined us this week on This Is the XFL Show.
Guys, I appreciate it. Call anytime. Thanks so much for having me on the program.
Oh, we definitely will when the season starts in 2020. Frank, thanks so much.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Frank Cusimano, everybody, KSDK TV in St. Louis. And the things I took from that, guys, is that St. Louis absolutely deserves pro football, and Frank Cusimano was not a fan of Stan Kroenke, Brian.
The one thing I got out of that, Alan, is that St. Louis hates Stan Kroenke is pretty much what I got out of all that.
Yes.
You know what, though? Oliver Luck mentioned that they wanted a town that was hungry for football. And at first, I was on the Stan Kroenke side thinking that they weren't. But you know what? After talking to Frank, it seems like they want football. They want a chance to prove some people wrong, Stan Kroenke included. So I think this might be actually a great place for the XFL.
And I don't know about you, Jake, but whenever the Rams were leaving town and they were talking about what a terrible stadium that dome is, the whole time I'm saying, isn't that place less than 20 years old or just about? That's not that old. I've rooted for teams that played in the same stadium for 50 years or 30 plus years in the Steelers' case, Jake. 20 years not that old for a stadium. There are some minor tweaks they could make, I'm sure. Are you fine with them playing in the dome there in St. Louis?
You know what? As long as they can fill it up or fill enough of it up, I'm perfectly fine with that. And you know, it's time to nut up or shut up. You know, we keep hearing that St. Louis, you know, they want a team. They're big football nuts, and it's going to be their time to shine. And I hope they prove us all right. From that interview, it sounds like they are going to.
Yeah, I think they will. And if you get that dome halfway full for an XFL game, even. I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere, as we saw, you know, when the Rams were on fire. People in St. Louis get loud, and that dome can be rocking. But what should the team name be? That's the next question for all these cities that are going to be unveiled. We won't know that information until 2019, but we could start the speculation. I'm sure there'll be more to come on team names, logos, uniforms, and whatnot. But we did get an awesome render sent to us from Jason Stem, who you guys need to check out some more of his work. He does some cool renders of uniforms and prospective teams and whatnot. He gave us a new show logo, which is really cool, but he gave us the St. Louis Stallions render, Brian. I don't know if you caught this, but that was based off of the proposed expansion team in the NFL in the 90s, which lost out to Jacksonville. St. Louis Stallions. Should the XFL steal the team that was supposed to be the St. Louis NFL team about 25 years ago?
You know what? A lot of people responded with that answer, the Stallions. I mean, if it's what the people want, why not? I don't know what the legalities of it all are. You know, who owns a trademark? Does the NFL still own the trademark on the St. Louis Stallions? I don't know. Sure. I'm unfortunately not from St. Louis. I've only been there once for a few days. I couldn't tell you exactly what to name them, but I heard someone put the Archers, I guess, for the the Gateway Arch.
Yeah, if you're going by your time in St. Louis, I guess you'd want them to be called the St. Louis Stingers.
Yeah, that would actually be very fitting if you ask me.
That's a wrestling reference, everyone. He saw Sting at Survivor Series in St. Louis.
You know what? And everybody that's on this show has seen Sting, right? I think. Anyway,
I would hope so.
Anyway, yeah, you know what? Maybe the Stallions is the best way to go. It seems like that's what everybody wants, but they'll find a team name that's very fitting.
No, if they go with the Stallions and those uniforms that Jason mocked up, and we'll tweet out XFL show, check it out on Twitter. If they go with that, I'm down for it, because those are some cool uniforms. I like them because they pop, and I'm colorblind, Jake, so I need it to pop.
Oh, they definitely pop. Are they a little too Minnesota though?
What makes them Minnesota?
Well, they're Viking colors. I mean, let's just get that out there.
Well, the Viking colors are Laker colors. I mean,
yeah, they're like, the Vikings are yellower kind of gold. This is like a gold.
If they want to go with the Stallions, that's fine. Now we all know the AAF team. They also have the Stallions, which I still say they should rename it to the Pegasuses, because that's what it looks like to me. But we don't know. The AAF may not be around. I am not of the mindset that I don't think it should be mandatory that it's something, from day one in the city of St. Louis. I think you could go generic if you want to, but if you want to tailor it to the city, that's fine as well. It's got to sound cool. It's got to have a logo that people know what it is. It's got to be recognizable right away, and it can't look like something else.
Yeah, that's what everybody's going to be hoping for, is that it pops, it catches people's eyes, and you know what you're looking at when you look at the logo. I think that Stallions logo kind of does the trick. I dig it. A lot of people said Clydesdales, obviously with the Budweiser tie-in there in St. Louis. Time will only tell, and we are out of it right now, guys, because, wow, action-packed show. We have so many more episodes to come where we will debate team names, but we need to get these cities officially official first, and that's coming up this Wednesday. I cannot wait. December 5th, and we're going to have, the show drops every Sunday, but we're going to have a ton of content for you in the middle of the week from that press conference, so be on the lookout at XFL Show, Instagram, Facebook, and of course Twitter. This is the XFLshow.com, and I don't know, should I break the rules? Should we break the rules while we're there, Jake, and maybe double up on podcasts next week? We might have to.
Well, yeah, we may have to. Anything's possible, especially at an event like that.
Yes, absolutely. And everybody, again, if you want to check out those renders that we tweeted out, Jason STEM Creative, I believe it is on Twitter. Correct, Jake? He is amazing. It's STEMM Creative, CREATIVE. He did those renders for the St. Louis Stallions jerseys, but also our new show logo, which we put up on all of our social media and our website as well. Looking real cool. Looking like we're officially official now. We got the new logo, Brian, unlike the cities in the XFL.
Yeah, we became more officially official than the cities did, I guess, sooner. No, you're right on. I think we should probably break some rules this week. There's too much going on not to. My head's about to explode. I think I need to go and try to reset myself. Maybe take a nap after last night's experience.
Yeah, well, be on the lookout also. There might be more voicemails you have to call so we could get the audio for that. Everybody, thanks for riding down the road to 2020 with us. And remember, if you want to be involved in the show, you want to be heard on the show, you can call the XFL fan line, and we'll put you out on the show. Of course, that number is 724-565-4XFL. That's 724-565-4XFL. Call anytime. Leave us a voicemail. We'll put you up here on one of the episodes. And also, if you have a question you want us to approach and address, you could also ask it there. And don't forget, next week it could be a double up on podcasts. We don't know exactly yet. There will be so much content, and it will be everywhere on all of our social media platforms, so you can find it at your favorite place. YouTube even. This is the XFL Show on YouTube. So be on the lookout, because next week is the biggest week in XFL history, at least, new XFL history, and we're going to be there for you, because this is your place for the best XFL talk on the road to 2020. For Jake, Bryant, I'm Alan. Thanks for listening. We'll see you from MetLife Stadium next week. This is the XFL Show.